Hello. At this time of the pandemic, there are a lot of business leaders who are reaching out to me and asking, what is the way in which I speak to my employees? How do I deliver the message? And I think really at the bottom of this is also the question that what is the message that I deliver? Because I see two kinds of mistakes that are happening. One is the freeze, where there is a sense of uncertainty that what do I say? How do will my saying mitigate the suffering that is around me? And what is the kind of message which I want to give, even while business targets have to be met? And the other kind of a mistake that I'm seeing is that of sending mixed messages, which is that on the one hand there is the infrastructural support that the organization is arranging, like vaccination drives, oxygen cylinder support, change leave policy. But on the other hand, when there is a review meeting, then the messaging is hard and aggressive that where are your deliverables? Why are you at the bottom of this chart? What I want to say here are that we want to focus our attention on three things: the inner, the other, and the outer, as Daniel Goleman says. So let me talk about each of these three. The inner is to focus on what is happening inside as a business leader. What are the feelings, thoughts, and therefore what are my actions? So it is possible that there are feelings of fear and anxiety, that how am I going to shoulder this responsibility of being a leader? What is going to happen to my deliverables? How am I going to be answerable to my seniors? And am I enough to be a leader, to show light and vision to my people at this time? And this can result in behaviors of not showing up, or on the other hand, becoming highly aggressive in demanding deliverables. And it is important at this time to, again follow three steps and to help us handle this emotional hijack, or the possibility of an emotional hijack. The first is that listen to your thoughts and emotions and observe your actions, but don't necessarily believe them, because if your thoughts are saying, I don't know how or what will happen, disbelieve it and tell yourself that I have the wisdom and the resources to create a sense of safety and support for my team. Because our mind has the tendency to latch on to that 1% negative thought and to believe it to the extent that it affects our behavior and action. The second is that take a pause and ask yourself, can I be present? And then draw the wisdom and the action from that pause instead of the reaction that comes from the emotional hijack. And as you allow yourself this pause, then the third thing to tell yourself is that may I be present to the larger perspective, which is the communication of care and concern and respect for my people, as well as the work which has to continue. So now we come to the other, which is that to keep a continual track of how is the other person feeling, thinking, behaving, and to create windows and opportunities of direct interaction with them, rather than live in our own zone of safety, or where things are relatively smooth perhaps. And then we come to the third one, which is the outer, which is that the infrastructural arrangements that we are providing for safety and well-being of our employees, which is, as I mentioned earlier, the oxygen, the cylinders, the procurement of oxygen concentrators, the procurement of vaccination, changes in policy, etc. And then finally, I want to talk about that what is the way that we will deliver this message. So again, there are three suggestions. So the first is that acknowledge the difficulty and talk about the gravity of the situation, the extreme difficulty that everyone is going through. Talk about the numbers, which is how many in your team have been affected, what is the exact status, and the fact that this is not a time to take things for granted and not believe that this cannot happen to me. The second is then to talk about what is it that we as leadership are doing for our employees. And then the third is the messaging of what is the deliverables that are still going to be required of the team. And to say that the show has to go on, and that we are going to do what is expected to a reasonable extent, and if people are facing difficulties and problems, to talk to their leaders about it. And then the message of that we still have to continue developing our long-term growth plans and our actions for long-term sustenance. I hope this helped. Thank you.